I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Age video blog. Okay, viewer mailbag. Always appreciate all the comments that I get. I try and respond to a few of them whenever I can. I'm a busy guy. I've been traveling a lot here the last couple of months as well. But every now and again, I'll see a comment come through here that's got a lot of stuff going on that I think hopefully maybe I can help straighten this guy out a little bit and debunk some of the stuff that he's claiming in this comment. So here we go. This came in a couple of weeks ago. I think it was on my blog on taxes. So anyways, he says, I see a shift from owning to renting for the new generation these days. So do I. I mean, I've blogged about it. Homeownership in Canada, the province, and Vancouver has been plummeting the last 15 years. A lot of reasons for that. I'll talk about it in a minute, but I've documented this many times. Very little buildable land, especially let's talk about my main market, Vancouver. What is there, the land is extremely expensive, construction costs have soared, material costs have soared. So they're delivering these new condos at between $2,000 and $3,500 a square foot, hardly affordable. Some people can afford it, people that have been in the market and ridden the market up, or highly motivated people, let's call them, like myself, and I've got a lot of friends and colleagues that are in the higher echelons of earning. And you guys can do it too for my young viewers. This guy, I'll go on here in a minute, all hope is not lost. As a matter of fact, I've said it many times. You're in a golden age here. If you want to work, start a business, hustle, you're ambitious, invest your money, the sky is the limit here in Canada and in the United States. So there's still lots of opportunity. He says there are lots of $2,000 to $2,500 a month options to rent. Not in Vancouver, there's not, unless you're talking about an old dilapidated wood frame here in the West End that's 50 years old, creaky floors and drafty, but I'll get to that in a minute, versus the $1 million condo. Well, $1 million condo is going to rent for a lot more than $2,000 here, but we'll get to it here. And a $1,000 a month strata fee. Not true. Typical $1 million condo, probably have about a $500 maintenance fee. So you're only about off by about 100% there. But honestly, I can't see this new wave of I can't see a new wave of buyers coming in the next 5 to 7 years. Nobody's going to buy any more condos, I guess, according to this guy, as people's wages get left in the dust. I've done so many blogs on this. For God's sake, please buy my book on Amazon. Go back into my archives where I've talked about what drives the Vancouver real estate market, just like it drives the New York market, Southern California market, Miami market, high-priced markets. Toronto would be the same way. A lot of it is an equity-driven market here. They don't care about what average wages are here versus what it's going to cost to support a mortgage on a one-bed. That ship sailed 15 years ago. It's an equity-based driven market. People who have bought 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 years ago have ridden the market up, created a bunch of equity. They sell, take a bunch of that equity and move up to a bigger place. But listen, just because the average wage earner in the Lower Mainland is making $45,000, guess what? Yeah, they're never going to be homeowners unless they get out of that 9-to-5 job. There's lots of people to take their place that are doctors, lawyers, professionals, entrepreneurs, that salespeople that are making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. They're everywhere here in Vancouver. I hate to break it to you. They're the ones that are buying my $3 and $4 million Cole Harbour condos. They wouldn't be building luxury condos here in Vancouver at $3,000 a square foot if they didn't think eventually someone's going to buy them. So keep that in mind here. He says real estate prices are out of touch. We need to build more rentals. They're building more rentals. Of course we do. He says you've mentioned $3,000 a month rental suites of 500 square feet. I call bullshit on that. Now, I don't appreciate that, calling bullshit. What do I know, right? Probably have 150 investor clients just in the downtown core alone. I own a bunch of properties downtown. I know exactly what condos are renting for. And when I refer to this 500 square feet for $3K, I'm talking about the new purposely built rentals. So this would be stuff that's down in English Bay, a couple of years old. The stuff they're building right now on the native land, hugging up on the Burrard Street Bridge. Some of the stuff Aquilini has over by the stadiums. If you want a basic one bed there, have a look. They're running about $3,000 a month for a basic 500, 525 square feet. maybe a little less if you don't want parking. Those are the going rates. Now, if you're talking $2,000 a month in downtown Vancouver, you said there's tons of those. Well, I don't see those, but if it is, it's one of those older 45, 50-year-old wood-framed dilapidated buildings with drafty windows and creaky floors that you can maybe get for $2,300 or $2,400 a month, but not much of a unit. Anything, I'll give you a prime example. I just placed two of my investor clients, because I have a database I run here with all my investors. We keep everything up to date. My wife also does a lot of research all the time on Craigslist, just seeing what different stratas are currently listed on Craigslist, what they're asking for their one beds. One was a 500 square foot in an 18-year-old strata over here on Richard Street, 508 square feet with parking, $2,850. The other one was just under 600 square feet on Canby Street downtown here. That's a 17-year-old strata, renting for $3,100 a month with parking and a storage locker. Those are the current rates if you want to be in a stratified building, decent quality. He goes, I wish I could buy, but the math doesn't make sense. Current real estate prices, from what the prices we see now, they'd have to come down substantially. So he wishes he could buy. Then he went on just finally to say that, the U.S. stock market's also overvalued. He's not the most positive guy here. And people should maybe look to China and Europe to invest. That's a dumb idea. I'll get to that in a minute too. If you want to put a little money, I own about 5% of my total portfolio is in XEF. I believe the ticker is on it with iShares. It's a Euro fund. And I've got a little bit of exposure to emerging markets with China and Taiwan and that kind of stuff, but they've underperformed. My European one, I've owned it for 14 years. I think it's up, last time I looked, total after 14 years, about 21%. It's a joke. Most of my money is in US, and then I've got some stuff in Canada as well, but I'll follow that. So, first off, thank you for the comment. I don't want to poke fun at you here. I don't want to get, any ill will here on this blog. I appreciate the comment. The fact that you're watching my blogs, and I think you've been watching them for a while, and commenting, this tells me that you want to learn, and that's fantastic. You're getting different opinions on things, and you're open to getting some information, and that is the first step for sure. So a couple of things here. Yes, the new generation will be renting these days. They certainly will be renting these days because, first off, we're just not building much in the way of condos. How many blogs have I done, guys, over the last 2 years talking about nothing is getting built right now as far as stratified condo downtown? They're building new rental stock, but it's coming at a cost of building condos. There's probably somewhere in the neighborhood about, including this native development over here that they fast-tracked, I don't know, probably 4,000 or 5,000 rental units coming online in the next maybe 3 years or so. And again, a small one bed is going to be $3,000 a square foot. By the time these get built, it'll probably be $4,000 a square foot. Have a look. Have a look at some of the completed buildings now in English Bay and see what those are being rented at. There's $2,000 a month rentals in downtown, but oh boy, do you want to live in those? I mean, those are going to be pretty tired. But here's another, how many of these have I held up over the years, guys? Here's another notice of public hearing. So when you own as much real estate as I do all over the downtown, every time they want to change something or rezone something within, I don't know what it is, a 10-block radius of the building you own in, you get one of these things. So my mailbox is stuffed with these now every single month. I'll get 8 or 9 of these. But this is one, 1068 and 1090 Burnaby Street at Thurlow. This is the last domino. I think I've told you guys about the other 4 or 5 that have all fallen along this Thurlow corridor here. They were all going to be stratified condo, and slowly, one by one, they've all been scrapped for market rental. And this one is going to be 31 stories, 300 rental units, 20% will be for below market rental. And these will, when they finally get finished, if they were finished today, you're looking at $3,000 a month for a small one bed with parking. You're looking at way over $4,000 for a 2-bed in here. And off topic here, guys. A lot of people have said, hey, Owen, does the threat of these new rental buildings, are you worried about your current rental units you own downtown? Not in the least. Not at all. I've talked about this many times on my blog here. Renters get into these, and listen, we need more rental, don't get me wrong. But these rental-only buildings are a bit of an animal house, if you guys don't know that yet. But if you want to move into one, you'll find out pretty quick. So it is constant moving in and out. It's a hotel. I mean, they're all rentals. There's 300 rentals in there. So it's constant moving in and out at all days of the month. They're a breeding ground for illegal Airbnb. Those are like whack-a-mole in these buildings. You like parties? Loud music, bass coming through your ceiling, the smell of marijuana wafting through the hallways. That's what you get with these rental buildings. They're not all bad. At least they're a newer rental, which we've needed in Vancouver. But what I find is a lot of people move into those buildings. I've had many tenants over the years, and then come looking for one of my units. They want to be in a strata where it's 50, 60, 70% owner occupied. They know who their neighbor is. There's not very much moving in and out all the time. And they're just much better, well-managed buildings. It's a better living experience is what it is. So, but these dominoes are falling here. So yeah, he's right. I mean, this is a socialist way here, guys. We are a socialist country and a socialist province. We're not going to build you anything to own, because when you own something, you distance yourself. You don't rely on the government as much. So we're going to, build you some rental stock so that you are, at our whim and keep voting us in. That's what they're going to do. So this trend, I've done blogs on it, has been dropping. I mean, back in the 80s, I think it was something like 66% or 67% of people in Vancouver own their home. Now, I think it's just barely over 50%. It's going to drop below 50%. That's why the NDP keep getting voted in, because there's more renters now than there are homeowners, because a lot of the people, even with the condos downtown, those are investors that own those, and the occupants are renting them. He says he wants to buy. He says he wants to buy. He says he sees all this inventory, for cheap rents, no risk, no taxes, no fees on renting, versus home ownership where you got to pay the property taxes and the maintenance fees. He says $1 million condos with a $1,000 a month maintenance fee. That's not correct. I would say the typical $1 million condo, which is now a lot of times just a one bed or a one and den, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about $550, $600 a month, depends. But you're saying you've got no risk by renting. Oh, you do. You have a lot of risk by renting. What you're risking is your future financial security by becoming a lifetime renter. Again, please use my archives here on my YouTube channel. I've done so many blogs on renting versus owning. Do the math. What I find is most people just don't want to break down and really do the hard math. But if you're going to be a lifetime renter, just renting a basic one bedroom in downtown Vancouver, you're going to easily go through 1.1, 1.3, $1.4 million by the time you get into your 60s on rent, indexed to inflation, because the rent goes up every year, with zero to show for it. Now do the math on putting $150,000 down on that same condo, taking out a 3-year fixed mortgage at 3%, which is what you can do. You'll have maintenance fees and property taxes, but then have a look at it over 25 years using an amortization table, the breakdown between principal and interest. At the end of the 25 years, or maybe even earlier, 20, you've got that home paid off, free and clear. And then, of course, what a lot of these guys forget about is the principal residence exemption. I've done so many blogs on it. Guys, read my book here. This is the roadmap to how I did it. It'll work for you guys. Deep dive on the principal residence exemption. I have a chapter in here called The Ghost Ship to Wealth. You buy the home. The toughest part is putting down the 10% or 15% or 20%. Once you've got the down payment, it is a ghost ship to wealth. I give you real life examples based on a condo that I sold back when I wrote this book on Pender Street. So again, I'll help you with the math. It's all in my book here. But let's just talk about one other thing, though. Forget the financial aspects of buying versus renting. The biggest motivator for me to own my own home, and I think it's one of the top motivators for a lot of people I sell homes to, is the security blanket that it gives you. That was always one of my top priorities. I never wanted to be at the whim of a landlord, even though there's lots of good landlords. Any of my tenants, I've got good relationships with all my tenants over the last 30 years. But I never wanted to be at the whim of a landlord, where you never know when you're going to get that phone call that the landlord says, I'm moving back into the unit, or my daughter or my son is going to move into it, or I'm going to sell the unit. Eventually that phone call comes. The other thing is I always wanted my own space. The whole thought of renting and throwing money down the drain never appealed to me. Just like I don't rent my lease cars, I buy them. Well, I should take that back. My last car, currently with my way I've got my business set up, it is a buyback lease, but it's off topic. But I never wanted to be at the whim. I wanted the security of owning my own space. The other thing too is pretty much all the homes I've lived in the last 15 years are customized to me. When I told you guys, I bought my current home here 6 years ago. It needed a complete reno, but bought the home because of the location, everything else, the building I wanted to be in. Then I moved out for 6 months and did a complete reno for 6 full months. But I customized it to my own needs, built my office in here, built a media room. So it's to my specs. You can't do that with a rental. It's okay when you're in your early 20s, but once you start, becoming an adult, getting a little older, you're going to want to customize your own space. At least that's what I think anyways. You can't do that with a rental. You can't even paint. Your choice of paint is off the table for most rentals as well. So never throw away the intangibles that I've talked about many times. I can tell this guy, if you really dug down, start with my book. I give you the calculator in there on how to calculate rent versus owning. It's not even going to be close when you factor in the principal resident exemption. It's not. But it's just the safety blanket over you, knowing that you're never going to get that phone call. That alone should have you possessed to buying a home as opposed to renting a home, especially long term. I've said many times, renting short term while you're saving for the down payment, or if you just moved to the city and are getting acclimated, not sure where you want to live or the neighborhood, or you're not sure how long you're going to stay in Vancouver, do not buy. Don't buy. Don't talk to a realtor. The holding period, if you're going to buy, is a long-term commitment. 8 to 10 years is my golden holding period that I've always talked about, and I talk about in my book. 8 to 10 years, you have to absorb those ridiculous friction costs we have here in Canada and in the province. The PTT, the GST, conveyancing costs. You're going to have commission to sell the home. So it's all in my book here, guys. This guy that made the comment, he hasn't read my book. I know he hasn't. But you should read it. You're wrong on a lot of these counts. You're wrong on what rents are currently at least for downtown Vancouver, and something at least, 15 years old or 20 years old or less. You're wrong about the holding costs. You're not paying $1,000 a month for maintenance fees. There are units that have that, but for an average one bedroom right now, you're probably paying closer to about $450. Rents continue to go up. Do the math on the holding costs of owning versus renting. You get nothing back after you've dropped that cool $1 million, because that's what you're going to spend. If you're 25 years old, have a look at what your current rent is, index it to inflation, and then multiply it by the next 35 or 40 years and see what you're going to pay with zero back. But the principal resident exemption, as I said, has minted more millionaires and multimillionaires in this country than all other sources combined. I was already a millionaire when I sold my first main home, my first detached home, but I became a millionaire a second time after I had sold my principal residence, which was a large detached house. So yeah, selling the odd, haven't sold many homes over the years as principal residence, but yeah, they've made me a millionaire just from that alone, tax-free. Final thing here. He was saying U.S. stock market's overvalued. Well, I've heard that for 15 or 20 years. Costco is a prime example. Thankfully, Costco is a stock that always looks hideously overvalued. I'm not saying buy it now because it is getting pretty rich right now. But thankfully, I started buying Costco about 10 years ago and diligently kept buying it even though everyone was telling me I was nuts. That was back when it was $140, $150 a share. Now it's, approaching $850, $900. But, his recommendation to maybe have a look at Chinese and European stocks. Well, Chinese stocks, be careful. Very opaque accounting systems there. Personally, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Europe, well, it reminds me of, a really well-known money manager on an interview that I saw on Bloomberg a couple of years ago. And the question was, if you had $1 million, where would you invest it? And the guy thought, hey, maybe I'll put the money in European stocks and all this other stuff because he thought the PE was better and better potential. He debunked that pretty quick. Europe is kind of like what Canada is right now. It's a socialist countries, heavily taxed. They're not business friendly. Case in point, my XEF, which is a European fund with a little bit of Japanese and Chinese exposure, it's a laggard. I mean, I think I'm up about 19% over the last 7 or 8 years. Meanwhile, my S&P 500 is up 150%. So be careful with that. USA still offers the best opportunities. Doesn't mean that you could want to invest in every company right now. There are some companies right now that are probably overvalued. But there's always something worth investing in the United States. And you're going to get the proper diversification there and everything else. But do your homework on it. You can start with my book. I give you my holdings in there. Index invest is what all of you should do anyways. Don't even be buying individual stocks. I keep telling you guys. Just buy the S&P 500, the Triple Q, the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation Fund, the Schwab High Div, SCHD, and then maybe put a little bit of money in XEI for the Canadian high div, or buy some Canadian bank stocks. And but index invest should probably be the way most of you guys go. Okay, but I appreciate this guy's comment. I think the final thing I'll say, he'd like to buy, but the numbers don't make sense. Well, here I'll give you finish it off with a little motivation for you here. All hope is not lost, and if you're expecting real estate prices to come down in half, probably not going to happen for you to buy in. So what you should do is you should start working on yourself. Young people are buying homes from me every single month, and some of these guys are buying million, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 million dollar condos in their late 20s, early 30s. They're mostly in the tech industry. I've done lots of Saturday blogs on, socialist governments we're under now they're nasty. They're a virus. They want you to, they're trying to tell you that it's not your fault that you can't buy a house, can't buy your first condo. It's the money launderers and the foreign buyers and those dirty realtors and the banks and what else do we have these days? The flippers, empty homes. They're all conspiring against you so you can't buy your first condo. It's a giant lie. The opportunities have never been better right now for young people to get ahead. But here's the tricky part. Here's the part that you guys have to understand. It's not going to come easy. You're going to have to work for it. It means you're going to have to get up at 6 a.m. I still get up at 5:30, 6 a.m. every day. You're going to have to get your own business going probably. You're certainly not going to make it working for the government, which is what they want to do. They want to get everybody working for the government here. That's their ultimate goal, where the private sector only makes up about 20% of the job market. Don't buy it. But you're going to have to work for it. And nothing has changed. That was the same way it was 30 years ago when I was starting out, working out at the gym, talking to guys that were driving nice cars and seemed to be doing well for themselves. That's what they told me. They just said, hey man, there's lots of good opportunities out there. Become an elite salesman. Start your own business. These days with technology, start a YouTube channel, start a couple of side hustles, and then work your way from there. But it's all going to come down to your mindset, your work ethic, your discipline, and keeping at it. Small progressive gains as you go. So that's what I would tell this guy that made this comment. You got to get out of long-term renting. It's nowhere for you. You're going to be decimated financially. You're not going to become a multimillionaire renting a cheap condo, old wood frame condo here in Vancouver. Instead, work the other angle of it. Home prices probably aren't going to do you any favor. They might come down 5 or 10%, but these people that have been holding out for a 60, 70% correction, probably not going to happen. I guess anything could, probably not. So rather than you can either give up all hope, which the NDP wants you to do, will give you a lunch program and some dental and or keep that price of marijuana cheap so it'll keep you medicated. Why not work? So you can either give up or you can work the other end of it. Start reading some books. Start with my book. In the back, I give you all kinds of websites and resources. Start reading motivational books. lift yourself up, and you can make it happen too. It's super rewarding as you start to see the results too. But a lot of you won't do it, but there's no cavalry on the way, I'm afraid to tell you. Nothing that David Eby tells you or Trudeau tells you, building all those homes, it's a giant lie, guys. It's a lie. It's just they're telling you anything they want to keep themselves in power. That's how politics work. They're all the lowest of the low, as I've said many times before. It doesn't matter what party it is. When Pierre Poilievre gets elected later this year, I'll vote for him. I think it's a step in the right direction, but is he going to make any difference to my life? No, none. I've insulated myself pretty much 100% from the government, as I've told you guys. It's something I learned when I was a teenager. Only thing I need the government for now is renewing my passport and my driver's license. That's pretty much it. That's the way you guys should do it too. I apologize here at the end here for the audio quality. I think I probably got a little bit of a hum here. Unfortunately, I'm having a little issues with my microphone, and I probably will here. I'm trying to get some new microphones here, but hopefully it's not too bad. I'm Owen Bigland. Thanks for watching. See you next week.